Good morning. It is Pastor Josh, and we're getting ready for our devotional time this morning. Me and my family are up camping, and so you're going to get to see us kind of raw and rugged this week when we're able to do our devotionals. We're also, fighting a little bit of technology stuff because sometimes the Wi-Fi and the service we get up here is not always the best, but we are able to be with you this morning, and we're excited for our time to do a devotional. This morning, Trajan wanted to lead us in prayer, so I'm going to let him start our devotional with a prayer, and I invite everybody to join us. So sit up here and pray us in.
Dear Lord, just thank you for this day that you gave us, that you put air in our lungs, that you just let us wake up today, that you just made us put the armor of God on, that we're protected, and that we don't let the enemy in, that we just get to have a good day today, and that we have fun. Amen.
Amen. All right, friends. Well, our devotion today is entitled In Solitude We Can. And again, for those of you, if you're just joining us on these devotions, we've been going through a book called Mornings with Henry J.M. Newen. And we've just been kind of going day by day through most of these. So he says, in solitude, we can slowly unmask the illusion of our possessiveness and discover in the center of our own self that we are not what we can conquer, but what is given to us. In solitude, we can listen to the voice of him who spoke to us before we could speak a word, who healed us before we could make any gesture to help, who set us free long before we could free others, and who loved us long before we could give love to anyone. It is in this solitude that we discover that being is more important than having, and that we are worth more than the results of our efforts. In solitude, we discover that our life is not a possession to be defended, but a gift to be shared. It is there that we recognize that the healing words we speak are not just our own, but are given to us, that the love we can express is part of a greater love, and that the new life that we bring forth is not a property to cling to, but a gift to be received. All right, friends. Well, again, sort of a general question as we begin this devotion this morning. What do you guys think about his idea of solitude? And perhaps maybe even a better question is, how many of you actually practice solitude? Right? Solitude is a spiritual discipline, and yet it's one of those more obscure disciplines. And in fact, I would say many of us tend not to practice solitude to great extents, right? Many of us get very uncomfortable during times that we are completely alone, during times that are what we might consider completely silent, right? For us, given the amount of stimulation that we have in our lives, solitude is very unsettling for many of us, right? So I want you to think about those times when you're alone. What kind of things do you do to fill that space? Are you able to just sit there and be? Are you able to focus upon the presence of God in those moments? Or are you immediately looking for a means to stimulate yourself in some way? Maybe you got to go turn the TV on, and even if you're not watching the TV, it's the noise. Or maybe you got to have the radio going all the time because you need to hear certain things. Or maybe you sit for a few minutes and it's like, you know what, I need to go make a phone call, or I need to get up and I need to go do this thing. And friends, that's the way the world, I think, really tries to condition us. And again, we can become extremely overstimulated with all of the things that we have and all of the things that we can do. And so to just come and to be present and to sit in solitude, even for a few minutes, can be something that can be extremely powerful for us as we enter in and practice this discipline more and more. Now, one of the things that I really like that Newen said is that when we sit in solitude, right? It in some ways strips us of that stimulation, but it also strips us of all of the things that we think are so important in life, right? Or it even takes the focus off of ourselves, because when we just sit in the presence of God, when we just sit in solitude, we realize that, again, as he said, that all the things we do, not that they don't necessarily matter, but they're not as maybe as important as we like to think they are. And they pale in comparison to the things that God has already given us and the things that God is doing for us. So, friends, I want us to be a people who are not afraid to sit in silence and to sit in solitude. And for those of us that are a little more introverted, I think sitting in solitude and silence is healing. We enjoy that. We can do that for fairly long periods of time. For those of you that are more extroverted, this may be a practice that you really have to work into, because for those of you that are extroverted, you often don't get filled up by being alone. You get filled up by being with other people. And so this type of a spiritual discipline may take some more practice for you to remove your ability to just be around people and to just sit in the presence of God. Now, friends, as you can tell, we're sitting in our camper here, and we're sitting in the great outdoors. And one of the reasons that I do this is because when I come out here into nature and I get to spend a little downtime by myself, this is a place and a space where I feel sometimes the absolute most closest to God out of the entire time of my year. And so, you don't always have to just sit in your house to be in solitude. You don't need to go to a monastery or anything like that to go be in solitude. Being in solitude might just be a drive in the car where, you just turn the radio off and you just spend that drive just focusing on God, trying to listen to the voice of God as you do that drive, while taking in the surroundings of just being present in the moment. Maybe you're like us and you're out on this camping trip and you have the ability to just go take a walk out in the woods, or down a wooded road somewhere, and you're able to just sit in that joy of the serenity of nature, to listen to the birds. And yes, maybe you have to battle a few mosquitoes, which are definitely a problem up here. But that solitude can be very healing for our soul. And friends, if you are at home, again, find that space. Maybe you need to create a space in your home, almost like a prayer closet, where it's just a space that you can go where there are no distractions. The computer's not sitting right next to you. The TV can't be heard. You can't just grab a remote and flip it on. But maybe there's just this space where you're able to take that quiet time to just be alone and to be with God. So, friends, I'm going to encourage all of us to try this practice, even if it's just for a few minutes today and throughout our week. Practice the spiritual discipline of solitude, and see how your relationship with God can grow in that